Hello guys, it's Chummaster here. Today we're doing another Beyblade discussion, this time on the Beyblade X system, the Extreme Gear Sports system. I'm just calling it the X system for the rest of the video, trust me, it'll be a lot easier. Anyway, so I want to talk about the system and kind of some issues I see with it, basically on how it can build on itself. Both can it build on the system itself, what can they do to differentiate different parts within the system, but also, if we ever get like an X2 system, or whatever they call the evolution of the system, how can they evolve into a new system? And with Beyblade X and how it's designed, I'm genuinely concerned about this, and it's something I want to talk about. This video, afterwards, after I say everything I want to, let me know if you have any ideas that they could, how they could evolve, if I miss something, because I feel like it's a little bit limiting, honestly. So let's go ahead and just take a look at each and every part. I'll go ahead and take apart Drawn Sword here real quick. Alright, so the blade. I feel like the blade is the easiest thing to deal with because, let's be honest, you can kind of just have the inner part here, the gear chip, as a part, maybe have like an outer piece, and the rest of the inside's free spinning, just kind of an outer ring for, to be stationary so it fits on the other pieces easier. And you have like an outer ring piece, right? And with this outer piece, you can maybe have like a 40 type of thing where the outer piece can like be divided up for mode changes and stuff. 'Cause I don't imagine they could have the outer piece here, like, customized. Well, it'd be a little bit hard, but yeah. Maybe a 40 mode change could happen, but again, dividing up the blade and the gear chip could be kind of a thing that they could do. I could see them doing that for an evolution. And again, you could maybe have mode changes and stuff, but the problem for me kind of comes from how can they expand on this system as is. But also, in future systems, can you even really add gimmicks here? I don't think you can. I mean, a lot of surface area is needed for the gear chip and also the ratchet connection point here. So where would you add gimmicks onto this blade? Maybe the edges, but again, this thing's metal. And metal is harder to deal with than plastic, both for making contact points, but also housing gimmicks. There's not a whole lot you could do here. I feel like the only way they could maybe improve this is if they just make the bays larger. But again, I don't think we want to repeat a burst. Listen, burst, as much as I burst, the nice thing about previous gens, especially look at like Metal Fight, right? Okay, yeah, is a pre-hybrid wheel bay likely going to lose to a 4D bay? Yes. Is it just completely outmatched and has zero chance? No, it's likely the 4D bay is going to win, but a pre-hybrid wheel bay at least has a chance. In Burst, put a DB bay against a single layer, the DB bay is winning. It is. Like, unless something goes horribly wrong, the DB bay will win every time. Unless it has like a terrible combo, like if you're using bounce or something, like, yeah, you might have a rough time, but aside from that, like, generally speaking, or if it like self KOs, like, the burst bay, like the DB bay is gonna win. I don't want to see a repeat of that in X, where these new bays end up being massive and like 80 grams. We just don't need that. Also, I think that kind of interfered with the extreme dash gimmicks. I don't think they really could do that, to this extent at least, so yeah. But yeah, I think you could definitely expand on blades. It's just mainly the gimmick part of it where I'm like, I think we're going to get in for another very limited gen like Metal Fight, which I know some people I think prefer no gimmicks. Me personally, I don't like that very much. Now we get to the actual problems, the big problems here. Ratchets. I cannot see them expanding on ratchets at all, which is rough because I feel like you're really, really losing out on a lot by having these parts made the way they are. So I'll go ahead and grab a few other ratchets as well. The three that are currently out, well, three types of contact points that are currently out at least. There's 360, there's 480, and I'll grab 580, why not? Okay, there's these. So with these ratchets, right, they have different heights. These two have, 80 heights, they're, taller, and then this one has a 60 height, it's shorter. We all know this. And also, yeah, contact point differences. You got 3 here, 4 here, like the same. This is like a little bit thinner, but they still stick out a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, 580 here. The 5 contact points, yeah, they're much smaller in terms of how much they stick out, and they're just kind of wider. So you have different contact points for each one, and different heights. The problem is trying to expand on these ratchets. So how do you even expand on them? How do you change up a height difference? Okay, we can make shorter or taller ratchets, that's all you could really do. And also contact points. You could change the amount of contact points, but again, that's all you could do. It's kind of uninteresting in my opinion. There's not a whole lot you could really do with these ratchets. And I feel like with, again, going back to Metal Fight, tracks were cool because you got like the outer part of tracks. You could have kind of different abilities on tracks. Look at something like Eternal Defense 145, very basic, but have like the free spin thing. You can't do that here because ratchets, unfortunately, these outer parts move and it works with the burst mechanic. The burst mechanic makes it to where ratchets just cannot do anything special. You can maybe argue, okay, we'll have something underneath here potentially, but with 60 heights or potentially lower heights, you really would be limited and you can't really do a whole lot there. And again, you can't really go further out than this part on the outside. So again, you just end up very limited in what you could do with like ratchet gimmicks. There just isn't anything to do with them. The only things you can really do is like maybe add metal onto ratchets like underneath here, but that just makes these busted compared to the old ones, which we don't want that level of power creep again. Or you make it to where the inner pieces and outer pieces are separate. So like you have like this inner piece for the height, and like the outer piece here, like this outer clear plastic and like the color plastic here as one part for the, you know, the contact points slash burst mechanic. You could divide them up, but again, what does that do? It just changes the amount of contact points and height. And with how few ratchets we've been getting, there's no point. We get every single height for every single like contact point amount anyway. So unless we get like crazy amounts of contact points and crazy different heights, it's not going to matter. And dividing up is just kind of a non-fix in my opinion. Like, yeah, it's different, but it's more just different for the sake of being different because we just would have, I guess, more combinations, but it's just not interesting, you know? It's such a non-fix to split up the height and contact points in my opinion. So with ratchets, I feel like, again, there's just nothing you could really do here to fix them. They kind of are just bland parts I just don't personally believe will ever see any sort of significant upgrade, which is just unfortunate, because again, it would have been cool to see some of these upgraded a bit, but I just don't see it happening. Now, let's talk about bits. Alright, bits. So these things are, they're interesting, right? So with bits, you have the part up here which can have like extra burst resistance, that's cool, I guess. Then we have the extreme line, not extreme line, like kind of the gear part for the extreme line, and the actual tip itself. What do you even do with this? I feel like this immediately just is a bit of a problem. So let me grab some of my other stuff here. Some other bits I think would be worth comparing just to talk about. So okay. First up, I don't see like the burst resistance aspect here really ever becoming prominent. Like maybe change them up a little bit, maybe have like rubber on one, I don't know. But I don't think those will ever be a big focal point of bits personally. You have the height change. Obviously, like something like high bits here. It's like a little bit taller, or like a low bits. This part's like a little bit shorter. And you also have something like I shall save that one for the next part. So you have different heights, but again, are these different heights gonna matter much? I don't really think so. Like. It's cool, but again, it's not really interesting when you're reusing the same stuff over and over. Again, we have like flat and low flat. Like, this was literally like the 6th-bit ever released, and we're already kind of having similar concepts. Like, it's not a great look in my opinion. So heights, okay, you can have different heights, fine, but again, let's get to the main part of the bit. Alright, the gears and like the actual like bottom parts. So, rush proof, yes, you could have different types of gears. This is like a smaller gear with less of them. Less spokes. Okay, sure. Changes up how it works on the extreme line. Cool. We could work with that. And then as far as the bottoms go, we're very limited because, again, these bits are so small, they don't have enough surface area to really do a lot or even have any real gimmicks to them. Because, again, they're so small. There's not a lot to them. The only way you could really change this is if you maybe have the bottom part disconnected from, like, the extreme line. I guess that makes bits more dynamic, but, again, there's not enough room, in my opinion, to really do that. And also, you can't spread out the bottom part further because, again, it would interfere with the extreme line with how these gears work. So, you're kind of stuck with this design. You could maybe argue that the bottom part and then, like, the top part with, like, the height and the burst resistance can be changed around. But, again, what does that even do? Not a whole lot. So I feel like bits are just stuck in this place where you can't really split them apart properly, and you also can't change up their design much because of how they interact with the stadium. There's just not much you could really do here. Can you make more interesting bits? Yeah, you could use different shapes that we haven't seen before, also different materials on the bottom. Also, again, different extreme line type of gimmicks, like the gears here could be different. Maybe I have like a rubber one or something, or like maybe an angled one. There's stuff you could do to make these bits more interesting within the system, but again, trying to build on these bits, trying to do more with them in ways that advances them within the system, within a new system, I feel like you kind of just can't do. And that's kind of my problem here with the X system, is that you kind of just end up in this weird point of everything works well together, but it's hard to expand on. Like, okay, the blade, alright, yeah, a lot of this area is taken up by, the ratchet contact point and the gear chip. Okay, I'm going to put the ratchet on. Yeah, you can see that. Takes up a lot of the room. Alright, we have another problem, which is that, this is for the burst mechanic, so then we're kind of left with the middle, which can't really do much except for change heights. Can't really do much with that. Alright, the bit has to fit into there. This part, that's rush, that is not flat. There we go. This part has to fit in like this. This part is just too small to really change out with anything. And you definitely, you're not going to change out the very tip of this off of the gears here. Like, you're just not going to do that because there's just not enough room. The system ends up feeling, in my opinion, very limited. And while I think, the system itself, it works very well as is. You have a good system here. You have a good system. Like, I won't deny them that. They've made a cool system. I like how everything works. They feel like solid bays. Well, durability-wise, you could maybe question that, but yeah. Just feeling them, they feel good. There's a lot of good stuff here that's done. It kind of brings together everything in a sense. It kind of... These bays remind me a little bit of Plastic Gen, with just how they're built. They remind me of Metal Fight for, having metal contact points, and they bring together the burst mechanic while also introducing the extreme dash gimmick. But to do all this, I feel like you sacrifice really being able to build on this in a meaningful way. Again, sure, make the bits a bit more, interesting with the materials and shapes. Cool. Ratchets. Add new amounts of contact points and heights. That you kind of have a lost cause there. Blades, you could definitely do more with blades. Again, maybe split them up and stuff. And have mode changes through, different parts of the blade. But I feel like, again, there isn't really a big, amount of customizability you could do there, but also you don't really get many interesting gimmicks. I feel like this is going to be a very bare bones gen. Again, reflective of something like Metal Fight, but in my opinion, even worse, because again, with that you had, 40 drives. With this, you're not going to get that. Because again, unless we see ratchets and bits be combined, it won't happen. We won't get like a final drive or a bearing drive in that sort of style. And if you do want to fuse them, it doesn't work, because again, the burst mechanic kind of hinges on them being separate parts. There's a lot of problems here, and I feel like maybe you have like the inside of a ratchet have like some kind of bearing mechanic, but again, it's just so, there's just so few gimmicks I could really see working well here. I feel like expanding on this system is going to be very, very hard, so I just want to talk about it and just give my thoughts on it. And let me know your thoughts if you think that this is also something that they might struggle with. Maybe I'm a clown. Maybe in a couple months when we get the whole UX thing or whatever it's supposed to be, they do something crazy and everything I said is just wrong, and they have like some crazy idea that I just could not have wrapped my head around. Maybe they made a scientific breakthrough and that they could just make bays spin both directions at the same time. That'd be impressive. I'd love to see that. But, I could just be totally wrong. That said, I am worried about the future of how they could potentially expand this. And I know we're very early, yeah. You could also say stuff like that for previous gens, and they managed to do it. So, I'm just curious what you guys think could potentially be a way to expand on these bays, if there is one. Personally, I do think that there are ways to expand, but I feel like they're very limited in the way they constructed the system. While good, it just doesn't leave a lot of room to change things and evolve the system without completely just restructuring the entire thing and doing like a reset like with 0G. So I don't know how I feel about that. So I guess let me know. I'm thinking that it might be rough to change things up, and I don't want to badmouth the system itself because I do like the system and what they've done. It's just that expansion, we'll see how they do that. I'll talk more about this eventually when we get to the reveal of UX, assuming that's like a new system. at least to some extent, and we'll talk about how they did that. I might make a second video kind of like this talking about that system, and how they've expanded upon it if it's different enough, but I guess we'll wait and see. So anyways, let me know your thoughts, and yeah, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.